What's up, Otakus? Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your week. It's Monday. You guys had a nice weekend too. It was cold in large swaths of the country. Here it was just raining, mild rain. Um, it's been cold, but not nothing frigid. So, um, yeah, I did have a very interesting stream last Friday, and hope you guys can catch that if you missed it. Just jumped on with Big B McFly. Um, he's about 3 hours south of me, and we'd done trades before, but this is going to be our first actual physical in-person meetup, and we have the bare bones of a trade kind of worked out, and yeah, I think he's being very accommodating with flexibility. Um, and I think we kind of we've landed on the fact that we want to kind of price things to book, right? Price things to grade. But me realizing a lot of my stuff is not that valuable. They're mostly $3 to $5 books, um, and at the end of the day, probably going to go like $2 to $5 of value. Getting the $10 books for 5, um, and the $3 to $5 books for 2, something like that on my end. Now there are books like $10 and above that are going to be priced to around the grade. So that is kind of where we fall in a gray area. I want Big B to be comfortable with, like, yeah, I'll take that for that value. If he feels like it's not fair value, we can always discuss it. But I'm trying to, like, if it's not really really high grade, I'm trying to give him the like a good mid grade value for it, which is generally typically like a little less than 50% off the high grade value or whatever the mid grade value is. So um, that's kind of where we're at. Um, Now, uh, we are tentatively, actually, I think we've committed. Um, he said he's available. So we are meeting up in Olympia, which is the state capital here in Washington State. Um, we're actually meeting up near Lacey, which is like Olympia essentially. And we're meeting up at a comic book shop over there. They've got some long boxes, back issue bins. Not that I'm going to be spending money or doing anything like that, but I figure it's a convenient place to meet up. There's a lot of retail businesses available. It's right off the freeway, so it's not too far. And I figure we grab a lunch, kind of talk shop, and then, uh, you know, walk away with the books that we've exchanged. So should be a fun time, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Big B, if you're catching this video, man, appreciate you. Looking forward to getting to know you better, and yeah, doing this trade, obviously, but also spending some time with you and grabbing some lunch and hanging out. I figure I have a new uh, comic book buddy. Should I ever be down in the Portland area to get books or whatever, I've got 2 guys down there now. I've got Sleepy Reader, Damien, and I've got Damien's crew, and I've got Big B now. So kind of building sort of a Portland crew down there near Vancouver and Portland. So anyway, should be fun. All right, let's get to the work at hand. We are going to be reading Adventure Comics 501 today. continue on with what we've essentially started last week was the start of the reign of Superman. Or no, it's been 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks into the reign of Superman. This is our third installment, and it's a big installment because this is I think a character that sometimes uh, gets overlooked, and also a character that is definitely he's like a time capsule, I guess, to this era. He's really a character that's kind of reserved to the era. I know they've brought him back here and there uh, as kind of an anomaly, but we'll get into who this character is and what he symbolizes, really, because he's not that big of a character except for in this kind of time frame. So just share my screen here and show you what we're dealing with now. First off, let me preface what we're reading today. We will be reading Adventures of Superman 501. And one of the things that when John Byrne reestablished uh, the time, I guess you'd say the timeline, right? The DC timeline, the DC continuity. It was really a restart of the Superman um, continuity. Essentially, what Byrne and all the people at DC were focused on was bringing relevance back to the Man of Steel, because DC was an environment where their sales were not good. They went from really dominating sales in the Silver Age to losing out to Marvel in the Bronze, and then really just kind of playing catch up because Marvel was innovating on so many different fronts. DC was kind of lagging, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that DC. Hey, what's up, fanboy? No, I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good. I hope you're doing well, man. How's your weekend? I'm sure sure it's busy. Got a lot of stuff done, hopefully. Um, but yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of good fond memories of this era and this reading these books. And basically, my point is Superman was revamped. And the reason being was people just didn't care about him anymore. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that Superman felt dated. He felt uh, like he's my grandfather's superhero, right? Um, and it was disjointed as well. You had these titles where Superboy's doing stuff, and then Superman's doing stuff, and it never gets connected. Like Superboy's timeline and Superman's timeline, there's no real uh, connection there. They're just separate entities, kind of running parallel to one another. And the belief is, oh yeah, this is Superman's youth and this is Superman's adult, but again, it's written in a tone and it's not done with any kind of accuracy or consistency to make one want to buy into the characters. So it loses its kind of credibility, I guess, with more savvy comic book fans. And you see this exodus of new people entering the hobby or new people reading comic books, preferring Marvel stories over DC. And it takes a while for DC to really kind of decide, okay, enough is enough. We kind of gonna we gotta kind of, blow this whole thing up and start over. Nice. Yeah. Hopefully, you got a really good. Yeah, hopefully, you get a couple quotes, and hopefully, you know if the guy's dependable or not. A lot of these contractors, they kind of take a they what's the word? What's the expression I'm trying to think of? They bite off more than they can chew, and then you end up having to wait and paying more. So hopefully, you've vetted the guy and right. Too many imaginary tales, too many sort of like what if scenarios, elseworld type stories. It was imaginative, I don't think those um, don't necessarily have a place in comic books. It just sometimes you can get carried away with that kind of stuff and lose fans in the midst. They needed one continuous, ongoing kind of story and characters where these characters were building relationships. They weren't like, like the whole Lois and like, okay, take for example Lana, Lois, and Clark, right? That love triangle. It really is just um, an ongoing kind of theme, right? Just the theme. It's not really a story. It's like, oh, they're at it again. She's getting jealous, and it's really a cop out of creativity because what you're taking is you're taking a template and you're putting it in as many different scenarios, hoping fans enjoy that kind of stuff. But over time, it loses its flavor. You got to give people something new, or just put the characters in new situations and an ongoing building situation. So yes, along comes Marv Wolfman. Uh, along comes George Perez, and basically what these creators do is like, hey, we are going to um, create an event that's going to reset everything, right? It's going to just wipe out, and it's going to continue on with really one modern timeline with all the DC characters or narratives that fit in the modern. So they kind of cancel out some of the older characters that don't make sense. Uh, and then they reset with a modern timeline. And they are really thoughtful in how they introduce characters and how they build the world. Um, and one of the interesting things to come out of Crisis on Infinite Earths was the fact that you had like Superboy Prime, right? Just like a timeline where there was a Superboy who um, kind of grew up with the power and didn't have the guidance and became a tyrant, um, kind of a narcissist with power, and you know that parallel kind of he enters a timeline with Superman, and it's juxtaposed, right? You have this youthful evil character versus like an older, the template of what we understand Superman to be, just as a contrast. Now, there are merits to the Superboy character because the Superboy character, in and of itself, um, is interesting, and it's I think in terms of sales and because Superboy is technically Superman, Superboy is a big part of DC's legacy, and it's this concept of like a youthful, right? Having a because Superman's sort of a veteran, right? He's not approaching things like a kid would, like seeing things for the first time or having a youthful kind of you know um, set of a youthful approach and a youthful look at things where you're allowed to make mistakes, you're more a voice of the people reading the comic books versus um, an older person that you're just not going to relate to, right? So they, again, DC was very thoughtful in like, okay, we are creating one timeline for Superman, but we at the same time we do need like a super boy. We want somebody who is essentially a youthful version of Superman, but maybe a little different, kind of like a Robin like sidekick for Superman, but has superpowers and is technically Superman as a youth. So these are the kinds of things that DC was contending with. Like, how do we kind of continue to make sure we build something new, but stay true to the legacy of our books, our characters, and that's technically what led to this next book. So let's go through it here. We're gonna get started. Hey, Ron. Ron is here. We can get started now. Was waiting for Ron. Dragging it out for Ron. All right. Let me just get it into a more readable mode here. This is, whoops, where are we going here? This is the cover. This is the inside. And also the inside with the die cut. And Tom Grummett is the illustrator of this series. And really, I think, again, it's they have a really talented bunch here working on this group of books, and Adventures is definitely one of the more I think fun and exciting titles from this point on moving forward, because it's it just has a different flavor to it. A quiet Friday morning in Metropolis. Blam, badam, badow, tang, ping, badang, pow, pow, ping. Superman, die. Maybe you ain't heard muscle, but the man be dead. Can't hear it enough, Specs. Yeah, us small business types would have never got a loan. Would have never got a loan of this ride with the big S around. Yo, crew. I see us a killer business opportunity. Word that. She got prime assets, man. I'll invest in what she's selling if she lives that long. Don't worry. No way I'd let anyone kill a beautiful babe like you. A new kid tries to fill some very big shoes as they go through creators and the adventures of Superman when he was a boy. That's Man of Steel to you, punks. Oh man. Sorry, I read that in the wrong order. Oh man. That's Man of Steel to you, punks. You can't be Superman? Well, now, let's see. Big red S on chest, check. Fly like a bird or even a plane. Lucky for you. Super strong, no doubt about it. You punks want to test my invulnerability and go for the really big prize? Chill, man. We won't be giving you no trouble. Got that right. Huh, nice shades. They're yours, man. My gift. Thank you, citizen. It's really you, but I thought you were dead. I got better, babe. Lots better. Mwah. We heard the gunfire. What? Who? Book 'em top cops. Me? I got a never-ending battle with my name on it. That couldn't have been. Hey, he's Superman in my book, even though some ways he's just a boy. Suicide Slum. It ain't much, folks, but these sandwiches will help some. I know times is tough. These things safe, man? I mean, someone stapled this plastic wrap. Bibble ain't forcing it down your throat, kid. It's okay, Deke. I know Superman would have done it better, because I'm just doing what I can, trying to help out like he would have wanted. Man, is it supposed to smell this way? Hey, listen. My babies, my babies. What? What's it, lady? Couldn't watch them starve. Didn't know you'd bring food. Sent them to a better world. 3 puppies. Puppies? Aw, I would have took them. Yeah, here, take them. Well, it don't look good, Bibbo. Don't look good at all. Can't even save a puppy. Not even one little pup, you worthless old. One of them survived. It's a miracle. Guess it's kind of like my favorite would say. Miracles just need a little elbow grease to get 'em rolling. Yip yip. I'll give this pup a good home and name him for my favorite, who was kind of last to his litter too. Gonna name him Krypton. Honk. I want to believe he's back, Jimmy, but with 3 Supermen running around, I have to remain professionally skeptical until I meet them all. Oh, Miss Lane, I know I know you've been through a lot, but I think you better get ready for a self shock. Lois, I thought we had a deal. You know, I saved the world, you write it up. We both end up on page 1. But no, I get page 6, no byline, right under a hammer hobbles home. You know, I would have gotten rid of Doomsday too, was getting around to it. You can't be Superman. The one and only contrary to wow, my death really aged you, huh, Lois? Superman, Superboy is more like. Oop, listen, pal. Don't call me Superboy, okay? Sure, no problem, Superman. Thanks. See? He's convinced. I don't have time for this. The real Superman was at least old enough to shave. Okay. You forced me to do this. It's supposed to be a secret, but well, I'm a clone of Superman, not his love child. Come on, kid. This is the Daily Planet, not the National Whisper. Hey, what'll it take, Lois? A whole new look? Maybe if I slick my hair back and wear. Whoa. What are you doing? Clark, gotta bail, Lois. My super sense tells me there's this emergency situation, and I just gotta handle it personally. Thought the plan would be easier than GBS, but no, you're still in school, kid. Tell you what I'll do, kid. A bake-off. Well, Chief, this will be the best piece you ever read, or my name isn't. That's an interesting name. You spell that with 4 A's or 5? Put me down. I'm a reporter. No, you're way too hot to be a reporter. Well, a newspaper reporter. Save it for the boys in blue. Who do you think you're one of those Supermen, but you're so young. It's just the haircut. Fools everyone. Don't buy it, huh? Okay. Guess I can tell you it's a secret, but I'm a clone of Superman. I don't have my memories because there was no living brain. But hey, less mental baggage. Not a hoax, not a dream. The Metropolis Marvel is back, and GBS has him. Stay tuned for my exclusive updates. I'm Tana Moon, and get Apperson. Tell him I want Packard now. Switchboard's been going nonstop. The public can't get enough of your Superboy, Tana. Superman, Vinny. He doesn't like being called Superboy. You can call him Beppo the Super Monkey for all I care, Tana. I just want that kid on the air as much as possible. Let's make sure those mindless masses think of our Superman as the Superman. But shouldn't we cover all 4 Supermen, or equally, Mr. Edge? Over my dead body. We're creating a legend, people. One GBS has exclusive rights to. Oh, well, word on the street says that That old intergang boss, Steelhand, is holed up in Suicide Slum. If the kid captured him during a live telecast, that's not reporting a news event, Briscoe. That's staging one. Whatever we report is news, Catherine. Remember that. Briscoe's got the right idea. If we can count on Tana's young Superman, oh, I think it can be arranged, Vinny. Of course, it won't be easy. Ba ba bow 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 ba ba da. But all I'll probably have to do is ask. Tana Moon live high above Easy Street in Suicide Slum. Easy Street, a gaudy row of vice and crime where everything and everyone has a price, and where, according to GPS sources, the wanted felon Steelhand has barricaded himself behind a deadly gauntlet. Not for long, Tana. Thanks, Superman. Your headset microphone's loud and clear. Then it's showtime. Okay, where's Steelhand? Our sources say Steelhand is holed up in the Silk Glove Club. Superman about 8 blocks ahead of you. Why not just fly down there and capture him? Wait, what? And miss all this fun, Tana? The hand-o'-night costumes like you poking around, boy. Guess we have to teach you one Easy Street's hard lesson. One of Easy Street's hard lessons. Wake up and smell the coffee, juicers. You're dealing with Superman. Superman, huh? Heard you was back. Maybe you should have stayed dead. And then I wouldn't have met you charming gals. Look, I'm sure it's society's fault you're here, and I wish I had time to get to know each of you personally. Business before pleasure. Crack, crack. Cool. The rest of Easy Street looks clear, Superman. Keep the camera tight on him, Gordon. Some gauntlet, huh, Tana? I think everything old rusty fingers could throw at me and didn't even work up a super sweat. Maybe you should go to a commercial or something. The rest of Easy Street's going to be easy as pee my leg. Superman, you all right? No problemo, Tano. I'm invulnerable, I think. It'll take more than one exploding manhole to stop me. Good Lord, there's 10, 12 columns of flame. The whole street's erupting. We've lost sight of Superman. Chill, Tana, I'm clear. Old Rusty's got me shaking now, boys and girls. Oh yeah, I'm getting out of town on the next bus. Crunk. Oh, come on, it was a joke. That bus must have been loaded with explosive. Half the blocks is gone. I didn't see a driver. It could have been remote controlled, but Superman, can you read me? Don't get your hopes up, Tama. That blast trashed the kid's headset end. Wait, Gordon, down there through the smoke. Okay, trying to kill me is one thing, but that was my only jacket. This means war. Well, didn't stop him, Steelhand. He's tripped the lasers in, huh? They're gone. The lasers are gone. Titanium jaws have been ripped to shreds. Ditto the pip. Nothing's slowing him down. He's off the screen. Rumble, 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 rumble. Kaboom. Akoom. Don't get up, hairballs. I can let myself in. Psh. Tony, Sal, blast him. Try it, fellas, and I'll take you apart. Like this. Ah. Now, what was I doing before? Oh yeah, I remember. Steel hand, glass jaw, it figures. Talk. Did you use X-ray vision to determine Steelhand's exact location, Superman? You kidding? I was so mad I just plowed right in there. I mean, that was a nice jacket. Had to talk to someone, Martha. Have you been watching GBS's report on the young Superman? This has been Tana Moon. Oh no, Lois, all these Supermen, they stir Jonathan up a mite. He's sleeping now, but his heart, I know how he feels. I can't tell if I want to laugh or cry or scream or, well, take this kid. Oh, he's arrogant, but he's pulled a strange stunt at the office, and a bomb burst only hurt his jacket, just like Clark's capes, Martha. So I started thinking, what was Clark like at 15? What if he had all his powers back then? Maybe he'd act just like a kid. Now, no boy we raised would ever act that way, Lois. Powers or not. I guess that's it, Martha. You didn't raise this. You didn't raise this boy. Martha, do you know what a clone is? Ah, the end of a totally perfect day. Metropolis has got to feel safer, knowing Superman's back on the job. Yeah, I can almost hear them say, I disagree with almost everything about you, son, but you did okay out there today. Guardian, don't tell me you're going to try to drag me back to the project. Not this time. No? Fresh. Speaking of fresh, check out the jacket GBS is going to make sure I'm always prepared. That's fine, son, but remember, things are seldom as they seem, and you won't have a guardian angel, like when the rooftop thugs tried to hit you with poison gas back on Easy Street. Easy Street? No way, I was primed. I would have noticed, unless unless you move without making any noise. Guardian? Come to think of it, the volume was way up on Easy Street. I could have missed a few things. Knock, knock. Come in, Tana, come in. Glad you could make it on such short notice. You get the overnight ratings on my Steal a Hand report and expect me to stay home, Vinny? What are the numbers? Phenomenal. Trust me, you're the new Cat Grant. Although, next time your Superboy should fight someone with powers in a costume. Ha, yeah, sure, Vinny. You just tell me when evil man's attacking and I'll get it all on tape. In your own words, Tana, that can be arranged. Thought we had an arrangement, Packard. This wasn't supposed to happen, Mr. Luther. Needed a Superman. They rushed Experiment 13 into production. It was uncharted territory. We decided to implant certain safeguards in case something went wrong later on. But those newsboy clones liberated the subject before safeguards were in place, before he was grown to full maturity. And what does Cadmus plan to do about this? Nothing. If the kid disappears now, GBS will look under every rock. Cadmus needs its secrecy. It's bad enough everyone knows the kid's a clone. Yes, let's talk about that. You told me you couldn't clone Superman. Well, yes and no. Listen, I'll tell you everything. The reign of Superman continues in all the Superman titles, and be here next month when young Superman meets Supergirl in Adventures 502. All right, and just to give you a preview of the next issue we're going to read, which is sort of the last introductory issue, we will be reading Superman 78, the long anticipated debut of Cyborg Superman. So that is in store for next week. All right, well, how you guys been, man? Hope you guys had a nice weekend. Nice, right? Um, yeah, I've been kind of reading it in order for the most part. Here's where it kind of gets tricky. There's not really any specific order. It's kind of, they're just introducing each character individually in each of the titles. So Adventures is the focus of Superboy, Superman's the focus of Cyborg. Um, they had Action Comics is the sort of the focus of uh, Eradicator, and of course we have Man of Steel, uh, focus of Steel there. So we've got our four characters. This is gonna next week is gonna be the the last of the four characters to be introduced, and yeah, we have a really you know kind of a jarring Terminator like Superman here. Pretty cool. I think Jurgens did a really good job with the design of this look. Definitely creates a very sort of menacing vibe heading in. So yeah, that's a great image, right? Um, really is just um, I think moving forward, I think Cyborg Superman is going has potential to be like you know just one of the many villains that that is in the arsenal for DC, right? You have all these um, sort of legacy villains, but yeah, I think Cyborg. Give him a few more years, he'll be one of those legacy villains as well. I know he hasn't been utilized all that much, but he's being utilized more and more, um, sort of in the modern era, and so that's it's just a good. I think it's a good direction to head that he can be a character that writers charged with Superman can use in their toolbox or toy box from time to time. So that should be fun. Yeah. Okay, that's coming up soon. Okay, cool. Well, have a great time, Ron. Um, that sounds like a lot of fun. Nothing better than a good old comic convention. What are your? Do you know if your grandsons are into comic books? You're going to get him into comic books, I'm sure. Show him the ropes, huh? That's good. End of May. That's great. You're gonna have a blast with them. Um, yeah, definitely gonna do that with my son at some point. Maybe I should do that this spring. Just Emerald City Comic Con. It just gotten really, really pricey. I think just for 1 day ticket, if you're gonna go on the weekend, it's like 50, $60, and that's kind of steep for. I mean, if it was like $30, that's uh that's a little bit more reasonable, right? Um, yeah, but we'll do that at some point. I figure he needs to get a little bit more into like cosplay or get into something other than Pokemon because he's really big into Pokemon right now. So we'll see. Maybe we'll go to a Pokemon convention somewhere with Pokemon cards. He'd be all over that. That's an expensive hobby to try and support though. Like my wife and I have been kind of steering him away from the cards, but at some point he'll probably want to collect the cards and fall down a very expensive rabbit hole. That's good. Yeah. No, again, I think if it's an experience that you're having with your grandsons, um, it's well worth the cost as long as it's reasonable, right? I just think for our market, Seattle is just way expensive. Again, $50 to $60 for a day ticket just seems. I don't know if that's how much it is. I'm sure it's less where you're going, but in OKC, but here it's just it went up a lot because it used to be like 30 some odd dollars just for a day. But now the day tickets are like over 50, and it's gotten really expensive. And that's the thing, like it's so popular. People here, especially young people here, um, will pay sort of the exorbitant rates to attend. So um, I know a lot of the vendors have had less and less presence because it's really Emerald City Comic Con is really kind of a place to where you can meet artists, get books signed, but it's not really a place to pick up books. And it used to be more of that kind of convention, but I think the identity of it has changed a little bit. Books are definitely overpriced at City Comic Con. So if I'm going to go to buy comics, I'm definitely not going there. But again, to have an experience with my son, show him the ropes, show him all these like geeky people dressed up, kind of just that are into comic books or manga and anime, kind of like him, because he's kind of got that DNA. Should be a fun time at some point. Hey, what's up, Tyler? How you doing? Thanks for joining, man. Everything's good. How are things on your end? Hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. Yeah. So let's get into the trade that I'm doing. If you watched my last video, Big B and I have just started showing off books to each other to either add to a potential trader or not. And Biggie's kind of like he's open to taking it all in. I think he just wants kind of like he's looking to add stuff that he can potentially resell, and looking to kind of fill holes in his X-Men inventory, I guess, and some of his Marvel inventory. Got a lot of the kind of standard fare Marvel stuff from the Copper Age that should have, buyers, potential buyers for. So he's open to accepting it all. Really, my goal is to give him as much of my stuff and just get maybe 10 to 20 bucks in return. Not, I've got something like, but I've got about a short box of books that we've covered. But potentially there could be more. It'll be maybe a little over a short box of stuff, or hopefully just again 20 books, something somewhere around there. And I think Big B's we're trying to meet somewhere on terms of the value, the value of his books versus the value of what my books are. And I told him up front, there's not a lot of high valued keys here, but you got just a lot of sort of minor keys, stuff people want, that's not as expensive. The X-Men stuff, some Wolverines, a lot of Burn Fantastic Four, things like that. So should be fun. Should be a fun time. And so go and watch that video. You can kind of see where we've landed. I did text and message him that I do want some additional books that I didn't throw in. So there's going to be some additional stuff there. I think Big B's also going to look for some more additional stuff. Big B did have a lot of nice stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Trade is going on. We're meeting on March 8th, which is a Sunday afternoon. And I'm going to drive down to Olympia. He's going to drive up to Olympia from Vancouver. Going to meet in the middle. Going to grab lunch and walk away with our books. Basically, I'm just going to, here's your books, take my books, and kind of go from there. And I think right now, in terms of trade value, again, I'm giving him like a short box full of stuff. Even doing just a conservative pricing on the books for trade value, I've got somewhere around like $600 plus 3 slabs, which potentially would raise it to like 750 in terms of value. Let me show you the slabs I'm gonna be taking down with me. If he wants them, he can have them, but I'm not gonna, like this 9.8, sign 9.8, $50, probably worth more than that though. This is the one that I'm really just gonna, I know you could probably sell it for a little bit more, maybe around there, but it's a newsstand copy, not the best grade. Does have white pages though. This is also probably 50. I mean, it's $40 to get press and grade the book. So I'm really just giving it to him for the slabbing cost. So he should be able to hopefully sell it for a little bit more, maybe 60. So maybe I'll sell to him for like 40 to 50, and you can sell it for 60 to 70. Really is a classic book. Nice book that you'd want slab. But again, a lot of graders would prefer the higher grade. So don't know if this necessarily has even the slab value. That's the unfortunate thing about this book. This one, though, however, I think does have a little bit of wiggle room. I think you could probably sell this closer to like $70 for this one. Considering it is slabbed, it is near mint. It's a beautiful cover as well. So yeah, I'm not expecting to get, just wanting to cover my costs for the grading. Probably gonna give these to him for 50 each, like 150 value for 3 slabs, one being a side book and all. So I think that's fair, in terms of trade value, that's fair. In terms of even selling, maybe a little elevated, but even selling, it's, I think, fair to just cover the slab costs, right, for those books. So cool. It's me, baby. I got this stuff. Yeah. Big B has an incredible collection. And, we were talking, we did our video together, and then we signed off, and he and I backstage talked quite a bit more about just life and the hobby and his approach to collecting. And he's a very savvy collector. Like the amount of passion and the amount of work he puts in, like the intel, this is one thing. Like you and I could go into a comic book shop and we're just looking for the stuff we like, right? Like we're just looking for like Superman issues, and we might skip over like a big book. It's standing right in front of us, and we just might overlook it, thinking that's not key. That's nothing collectors want. That's nothing that has potential value, right? But not the case for Big B. Big B, when he digs, he kind of has a innate thing. Like, I think that's a big book, and he'll just pull stuff. He knows what's garbage, and he knows kind of like what to focus on out on the hunt. Like, this is high stuff. You can like certain books from a certain run or certain books from a certain era by an artist. All the little variable intangibles that you need to keep in your head when you're hunting as a resource to help you really maximize those opportunities and don't miss, you know. And yet he's been kind of like doing this where he picks up books, trades them, sells them, and like whatever. It could be a box of old toys that someone threw. He's going and flipping that to buy books, or flipping that to uh, have his cash to buy other more valuable things. And yeah, he used to be a comic book. Uh, he used to have a comic book shop, and I think that's kind of what he's working toward. I would imagine now. Sounds like he's kind of working and selling as like a hobby slash part-time uh, endeavor. And yeah, really, really, again, savvy collector. I think I love his approach. It's way more disciplined than, again, some of the books he has in his collection. Just absolutely mind blowing that he started from nothing, and with his approach was able to like upsell, do all the little things, and amass what is essentially a better collection than well most of us have. So very, very motivating and inspirational. I'm just at a different right now with everything going on. I'm kind of in a holding pattern until I can figure out what's going on. Um, I do want it to be another fun summer of hitting comic book shops and buying books and all that, but until we can figure out exactly what the next 2-3 years look like, and kind of get our economic priorities straightened out, books are less of a priority these days. And so for me right now, downsizing the collection to a more manageable set of books that I can just kind of take with me should we need to leave at the drop of a hat. That's kind of where I want to be. Um, Even if it's leaving, just let's say I the prospects of me downsizing my entire collection is just kind of like heart wrenching, because there's so many Superman books I have, and it's not like a big collection. It's literally just like almost 2.5, 3 long boxes, or sorry, short boxes of books, right? That's really more than I can take to Japan. So all of that has to go at some point. All of this has to go at some point. But should I get it whittled down to, let's say, the stuff I'm taking to Japan, and then like 4 short boxes of stuff that I have to leave somewhere? I can leave 4 short boxes with one of my friends. I haven't broached him about the subject yet, but I'm sure he'd be more than happy to just store them at his place for me in the garage or somewhere until I come back and pick them up. So really, if I can get that to like reasonably like 4 or less, or maybe even 3 short boxes, um, that's something I can do. Like, just not have to sell everything, but take back take part of the collection first and then take another part of it on another trip back. So hopefully that can happen. Hey, what's up, Joy? How you doing, man? Oh, okay, Invincible. So are you from Asia? You said you read manhwa and manga? Or are you stateside? Manhwa and mangas are um, essentially Asian comics. It's the same thing, but it is different. Like people, anybody who's read manga and anybody who's read comic books, you'll instantly see the difference. You'll feel the difference because the pacing of the stories are different. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining, man. Are you from Japan or Korea? Um, the pacing is different, and I think Jim Lee recently came out and said that American comic books can learn a lot from the manga, the manga medium. And he was kind of implying that even though these are comic books, like technically they're the same, right? You're telling stories through sequenced panels. You've got certain techniques, right? I think a lot of it is like I want to say like 90% of manga, manhwa, comic book uses kind of the same techniques to tell a story, right? It's that 10% difference that is so it creates sort of this big divide in culture and in terms of the readership as well. I know a lot of people who prefer manga. They just prefer manga over American comic books because it's just more of an experience, right? It's kind of like watching like a like a Netflix special or something, right? It's just like it's structured in a way that's like um it's not easily digestible. It's like it's an investment of time, it's investment of kind of following along, and it's not staggered. It's not like two issues and then another two issues. It's a continuous evolving story. And the artwork in manga is so kind of basic and simple, but so such with such technical precision. American comic books can feel kind of disjointed with all the color and the distractions. Like when you have something just ink on paper, there's something compelling about not having colors to distract you. And I think manga keeps it so simple. And then it's the anime that adds all that. It's like the manga, you're just reading it. But when you want something that's just a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more lively, you're wanting to see it in animated form. You don't really have that here, except the transition is like color comics and then actual real live action film. So I guess you kind of have that a little bit, but it's not. It's just different. That's the difference in the culture there. I think you just have the different mediums. You have the different pacing. I think to a certain degree, maybe patience, right? Comic books are sort of instant gratification versus like a manga series, which is like you're more vested. The outcomes are more gratifying if you get to the end of that journey. But, comic books are kind of like standalone stories. You can just read it and be done with that story arc. So it's very different. Well, thanks, Joy Kid. Oh, you're from India. Cool. All right. Yeah, I don't read too much manhwa, but I'm glad you liked it. That's cool. Um, I know they have American comic books in India. Are they popular as well? I know you said you were reading Invincible. I think Invincible's a great example of um, not your typical American comic book, right? It's like kind of taking tropes of what you see in American comics, but it is more a more thoughtfully kind of thought out modern approach to storytelling. And so, yeah, I think moving forward, I think Invincible is a good template to kind of, even though you can kind of take out all the violence and the language in Invincible, but the way it's structured is kind of the way you'd want to pace American comic books. I know, again, Jim Lee, I think his mindset is to like kind of meld or at least um, create more stories that are kind of bigger volume, uh, with a little bit more, kind of production value in the volumes versus American comic books. And if that really takes off, then what we're starting to see is the end of an American art form. Well, I shouldn't say the end, but the evolution of an American art form, where it's adapting and adopting to, it's coming out of its cocoon or shell, I should say. What's holding American books back is that sort of, you know, short, you know, short format book floppy that hasn't changed uh, since you know it the really the advent of comic books. It hasn't The format has not changed. You had graphic novels a little bit. You had sort of cardstock issues where you had maybe more pages, or you had 100-page, 80-page type deals with multiple stories and stuff. But we've yet to see anything consistently of a larger format serialized. So I think ultimately, if that's where DC's heading as an experiment, I'll be interested to see how much traction it has. But if you ask me, I think if people want to read manga, go read manga, right? If people want to read American comic books, keep it keep it the way it is. That's the way I look at it. Um, because this format survived 80 years and people still love it. So I think it really is up to the creators to adapt what they can do within a set page limit, right? You just gotta, it is a little bit disruptive, but maybe, get, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but maybe it is just maybe a larger format book at the end of the day, going with like 50 pages versus standard 26. Yeah. Yeah. The younger generation, I think it's not just the younger generation here in America, it's global. You got to realize what Japan puts out in terms of manga anime content. It's a global, it's like, these are, I think about Pokemon. Okay. That thing should have died like about 20 years ago, right? It should have died 20 years ago. Or no, sorry, about 10 years ago. Should have just been one generation that got into it. And then the next new thing came along and usurped its position. But Pokemon, in its many iterations and, you know, animated forms and all that, it's only grown in terms of popularity. In fact, I'm kind of getting into it now, and I'm a late, I'm late to the game, and I'm like, I can see why it's popular. They have a game, they have card games, they have toys, they have just like a whole library of, content, and um, it really is uh, made for the kid at heart. Got a very simple kind of concept at the end of the day. You're protecting animals or helping you when these little game battles, and building relationships with being a good sportsman as well. All these like cool little things kind of packaged into what are essentially just little imaginary creatures, and well thought out. Just the design and the battle sets, the moves, the fast moves, the charge moves, just really brilliant. And if you think about where that all stems from, where Pokemon came from, right? It comes out of a studio in Japan that was like trying to sell cards, and it became this global phenomenon. Dragon Ball, same thing. Transformers, same thing. I mean, it's like Super Mario's, same thing. It's just like they take these contents, essentially, they're just animated things, animated designs, animated stories, or I should say illustrated. And they grow into these billion-dollar franchises. So it's huge. Now, I'm not saying comics can't do that, but it's easier to do when you have this like global channel of stuff to put out, and people instantly react and respond to it and support it. I think social media is really perfect for marketing that kind of stuff. You know, you put out like a manga, people start reading it and talking about it. You get more people reading and talking about it, builds up the buzz. And soon you got the animation, soon you got games, you got toys, movie, and it just takes on a life of its own from something organic. I think comic, and that's what Jim Lee's really envisioning for um, American comic books. He wants to take it global. He wants it to take kind of, why does Japan have all this market share of like kids and adults who love the content? He wants to bring American comic book IP along those same channels and have the same kind of reach and readership. And I think it's great that he's doing that. It's a way bigger revenue stream for DC than to just focus on what feels like a dying, kind of like an industry on its last legs, right? You got to reinvigorate it and compete with the big boys, the Viz Media of the world. That's just like, you put out a little 5-set manga every year with Pokemon stuff in it, new Pokemon stuff in it. People are just like dying to get that in the next set of cards from whatever you're building. And it's like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what people spend on that kind of stuff. But that's what Jim Lee and DC want. They want a share of that pie. So Joy is 22. Yes. We got otakus are of all ages, right? When we talk about otakus, nerd culture, geek culture, um, there's no, you can't be too young and you can't be too old. It just has to be young at heart. Well, glad you guys connected here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tyler, Ron, Fanboy, Joy, Caden. We'll see you guys next time. We'll be back on Friday for the Otaku Top 10. But thanks for hanging out and reading some comic books with me. We'll be back next week to read more. Peace out.